Good evening and welcome everyone to Health and Education Committee meeting in January of 2012. And we have a considerable amount of business tonight, if we did not meet in December or during the Christmas holidays. And we welcome the board members that are here. And we have community care report up first, and Mayor Burgess, as he often does, is going to help us out here. So you all have a copy of the report, I believe. And Mayor Burgess, if you would, just address this.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, I move that we approve the minutes from our last meeting.
That's just for the fun of it. Let's approve the minutes. The chairman was just making sure that everyone was alert, and Commissioner Phillips is certainly alert. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you so very much. All right, Mayor Burgess.
Well, I'm happy to report that community care continues to do well. Census is strong. Patient care is good. The patient mix is good. The receivables are good. So they're doing an excellent job there for our citizens that need that service out there. And nothing really of any real negative to report. There are a couple of little enhancements as far as some little building additions, et cetera, that will improve things, but nothing of any significance.
Any questions for Mayor Burgess?
Move to approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillips. A second, please.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, of course, there is none. Okay, Ms. Garrett, could you come forward, please, with the Health Department. And I believe everyone has a copy of the material there. Welcome, Ms.
Hello.
Garrett.
Hello. So tonight, since we did not meet in December, I have November and December's reports for you to review. And it's very much like we would expect for our numbers and our programs. We did see a lot more flu shots that did not come through to us because it was available so many other places, which is fine. That gave us the time to focus on other issues.
Speaking of flu shots, did you guys go out? I think we've asked that before, but I can't remember.
We do. We try to target all the communities. We go to Laverne, Smyrna, and Murfreesboro Senior Citizen Center, and we do our clinics there.
If one of our employers, a bank, or one of our employers.
We usually refer them to a pharmacy, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions for Ms. Garrett?
Our Smyrna building, the building did start on that project as well. They did start removing some soil and started the first phase of construction on that.
Reminding the committee that we are right now sort of planning to meet down there in April.
Right.
And I guess we'll get the chance to see
Yeah.
how things are going. at
See the
that point.
progress.
Need a motion to approve her report. She has some other business here as well, so we'll take it in two parts. We need a motion to approve. Commissioner Soriano, a second?
Thank you.
Second, Commissioner Jordan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And, okay, we're in good shape there. Ms. Garrett, you have
Yes, sir. The second
another
is
state of Tennessee tardy approval. It's not you that's tardy, it's them.
That's right. The state has asked me to send this agreement that we're already participating in for the budget year that we're currently in, to send that through the process budget and then to the full commission to get that approved. So I'll bring that to you to get that process started.
Any different in this one?
No, sir, no difference, and Ms. Nolan has looked at it, and it's all within what we're already doing, what we've already agreed to in this budget year. Just kind of clearing up the paperwork, getting the contract official.
Why would they wait? We did this last time on a similar, and it was also very late, if I don't remember how late,
Yes.
but it was, I mean, this is 2011, the middle of the year.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You can't explain the actions of the state, can you?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right, I get it.
Yeah, when they want something from us, they want it on time.
That's right there, immediately.
And they're just now getting us something for July of 2000. Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Thank
A
you.
second from Commissioner
See,
Allen.
we'll do it fast.
Any questions, any discussion from Ms. Garrett? Are we in good shape here, folks? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, and there is none. And Ms. Garrett, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you as well
We'll
for
see you in April.
Yes.
the outstanding job that you do as well.
Thank you, sir.
Much appreciated.
Mr. Burgess, we've been running that department on ending fund balances. Is that correct?
As far as paying her,
Mhm.
well, I don't think they stopped contributing the funds to the state. I mean, it's just we don't have
That's
an
right.
official agreement in place, okay?
Yeah.
So they've been funding us without an agreement?
Yes.
Right. That's correct.
Wow, that's really unusual.
Okay, Ms. Jolly, good evening. Come on up with your special projects report. I believe you gave a copy to Becky, I know, and we received ours on the 13th, so, and this report is, thank goodness, getting a little thin.
Condensed, greatly condensed.
Go ahead with, explain whatever you want to explain, but it's a very easy one this time.
Yeah, there really isn't anything to explain on it, it's just look at the figures, but I have reduced it down to where you just have to see what's current, not look at all that other stuff. And I'm also changed it, I'm just gonna call it phase 2011 instead of phase 5 or 6. We just decided to change it to that.
Let's see, we got a new high school and the Eagleville addition both
Mhm.
up to date.
And since the public is watching too, we can inform them that about 12% of the Eagleville project expansion and so forth, and correspondingly Stewart's Creek High School, right around 12-13% of both those projects are completed, which is, that's about where we expect it to be, I guess. Land is clear. I know they've torn down a building at Eagleville to make room for classrooms and biology lab and things like that. And I haven't been to the new site. I don't know if anybody has been to the Stewart's Creek site or not yet, but at any rate, that's coming along as well. So
I heard last time from Mr. Turner, I believe you've been there before.
well, the site was already level, and so we didn't need anything there in Stewart's
Well,
Creek.
Mr. Flaherty had pictures, was it not at this meeting or
We did.
a couple of months ago when they had walls up and
Yep.
they were moving right along, so, of course, it looks like you're done when the walls go up and you're just getting started.
Right. Well, we're right at 12%, probably a little past that now. Ms. Jolly, anything else? Any questions from Ms. Jolly? These are our building projects, special projects as of now. We don't have a lot of other things going, so we ought to be in pretty good shape there. I need a motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve.
Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Allen, and Mr. Soriano has seconded. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Ms. Jolly, thank you. As usual, beautifully done.
Mr. Chairman, if we're heading to Smyrna in April, might be good to get there, those of us that wanted to get there an hour early or something and get someone from the, Mr. McCarty or someone to kind of show us around a little bit and of the new building site.
You're talking about that, our meeting at the health department, and you want to,
In April.
well, we had kind of planned on a little tour of some sort. I don't know what we are, but we sure want to see the progress. And is she gone? Well,
He was talking about going by the high school.
Going by
I'm
the-
sorry.
going
My
by
apologies.
Stewart's Creek, going by the new high school before our meeting.
Well, we can certainly do that too.
And kind of see the progress. Anyone that wanted to maybe get there at 4:30 or 5 o'clock or something like that. And,
So we'll have two tours, really.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
since we're going down in that direction and weather permitting, it might be a good time to tour that place. I'd kind of like to show them around.
We don't have the full committee here, but would that work if we met at the site there, say at 4:30 or 4 to 5 or something like that? And
It could even be somewhat informal, whoever wanted to. I
That's
feel
right.
sure Mr. Clardy or somebody that he would delegate could meet us and give us a tour and, you know, and we just go from there over to the health department.
Just think
Instead of
about
having to
that.
have transportation or
Okay.
anything, you know.
Right.
You just kind of think about that, but since we're going down in that direction, I'd kind of like to stop by and take a look.
Well, Commissioner Soriano, I know, is riding with me, and Commissioner Turner, Commissioner Allen, of course, and really to a certain extent, Carol certainly, and Will, you're kind of between the two.
In that direction, yeah.
Ms. Phillips, you're welcome to ride with me too, if you want to. We can set all that up. I'd like to give Mr. Clardy a call and see what we can do about that in May, if that's all right with everyone. Okay, speaking of schools, Mr. Sandy, how are you tonight?
Fine.
We're doing great.
Anyone else? No change. We are bringing forward two general purpose school budget amendments tonight. The first one reallocates $25,867 in already budgeted classified pay and benefits. The main item is there's a $9,800 adjustment to account 72,510,119. We are moving our federal projects accounting clerk entirely back to the general purpose school budget. We were able to charge that position to federal funds for a while, but with changes in the interpretations that they have made some changes from the first year we did that, so we've been slowly moving her back. They got a 15% cut in their federal budget, so we're moving her entirely back this year. And the other amendments are based on actual staff that we have in place and vacancies. No new money is being used. Our recommended motion is to amend $25,867 in already budgeted classified pay and benefits as presented.
I'll take them both at once.
We can? It's okay with everyone? Go ahead.
Okay. The second amendment, we have this most years. Special education high-cost students. This amendment budgets an additional $202,148 in state funds. These are state funds, but they're federal flow-through to the state. They reimburse us for some of the costs that we incur for our high-cost special ed students. The percentage of reimbursement varies year to year, so I tend to go conservative on estimating the revenue, so I don't have to decrease it.
Can you give me some example of what a high-cost student would be, what these funds are
well,
spent on?
We have some students who have to have a one-on-one EA. We have, and we don't tend to use this as a special ed expenditure anymore in some of our reporting. We kind of do, kind of don't. But we may have a special ed, initially one of the things that was hitting us, we would have a special ed student who, because of that student, we had to have a nurse full-time in a school.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that has led to us. We have a nurse in nearly every school now, because there was a court case some years back basically saying, no, that is a reasonable accommodation for you to make for a special ed student.
Okay.
So what we do is we pay for these kids, these services, out of our general purpose budget rather than our federal education budget, because if the money's available, we will get some reimbursement,
Okay.
and 20 to 50% but the swing is quite wide. So, yeah, but yeah, all sorts of services that we have to provide.
So
And-
the $202,000 is federal money coming through the state, coming to us, and we're just allocating it.
Right,
Okay.
yeah. And by law, these funds have to be budgeted for special ed expenditures, and I am proposing they go in staff and benefit lines that need to be increased because of these high-cost students. We've had an influx, we've had to add more sign interpreters for deaf ed. Just an example of some of the high-cost things we have. So, but most years we will have an amendment either increasing, hopefully increasing, once in a while decreasing what I've built into the budget. So our recommended motion is to amend $202,148 in IDEA revenue for high-cost students and the related staff expenditures as presented.
Take these together, or is there a question for, any other question from Mr. Sandvik on either one? If not, I entertain a motion that we approve both amendments.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Allen, thank you. A second? Second. Mr. Phillips, any discussion, further questions, comments? All in favor, please say, whoop, time out, roll call. Looks like there's money here, isn't there? Serious money.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Will Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes. Anything else?
I have a question. I assume there's gonna be some expense associated with finding a new superintendent, and I was just
Yes.
curious if there's been any discussion about how much that's gonna cost and how we're gonna pay for it.
We will do a budget amendment. I anticipate being able to do it within existing funds. The initial contract is $8,500. We shouldn't have many expenses beyond that amount.
And that's to hire a consultant to help us through the
Using the
process?
Tennessee School Boards Association, they offer 2 levels of service for a search, and the board opted to go with the $8,500 version, which is the other version I think was $5,000.
Okay.
And then the outside search firms were 15,000 and up.
Okay.
But the board felt that the TSBA could handle. you know,
And do
what
they,
we-
what do they do for that money? What do we get for that?
They will, we will have, there will be some public meetings, some meetings with board employees, just trying to get a feel for expectations and all. And then it will get more into vetting candidates, items like that. I had to leave for a meeting the night
Yeah,
they
you're
presented,
right.
so I don't know. They have already come up with a tentative schedule for when they will, present candidates and,
They do verifications, background.
Verifications.
Verifications of
Mhm.
degrees and experience,
Yeah.
that type of thing,
Mhm.
I believe.
yeah,
So what they say on paper is actually real.
Confirmed.
yeah. Yeah, but I was headed up here
Okay.
one of the nights that they met, so.
How long before they, was announced and they started accepting applications? Or have they
I
already done
don't
it?
remember
They haven't done
that
it yet, I don't believe, have
deadline.
they?
No, I don't remember the deadlines that they had proposed in
There's
that.
a fairly short one.
Yes,
Is
it
there
is.
not,
Mhm. Right.
until,
Yeah.
Sure, well,
Yeah.
and because again, the new director the contract has to be in place by June 15,
Mhm.
since it's an election year, so, but that should be very feasible.
And the only other question I had is on the Stewart's Creek zoning for the new
Mhm.
high school. Has any of that become public yet? Any of the preliminary maps on what
I
that's
don't-
gonna look like?
I don't think so, no, but again, that's an area I don't work with, and I'm
Who would
not
be,
sure.
who's the contact person for me at the school board if I wanna just keep my pulse on that? Cause I have a
Uh,
lot of anxious people wanting to know.
Give Gary Clardy a call.
Okay,
That position reports to him.
okay, that'd
Yep.
be great,
Mhm.
thanks.
But, yeah, they've played around with some scenarios and all.
Okay,
It's just been very preliminary.
thanks.
Okay.
A couple of things related, since you asked at this point, I'll just throw this in. I believe sometime in mid-February, we're going to be invited to, we're going to have an opportunity, at least, to express to the Tennessee School Board Association and to the school board themselves any thoughts that we might have about a new director of schools, whatever it may be. And I understand many government officials will be invited. I ask that they invite all of us. Now, whether that actually will take place or not, I don't know. But I suspect it will. The second thing is that Chairman Burns will, as part of the Health and Ed report on the 16th, I think he's going to report to the commission during our meeting that night on the superintendent search, procedures, dates, and things of this nature. And I would think he will entertain, I'm sure, questions of that nature on that night as well. so we can hear it right from the chairman. He says he will be there. He has agreed to be there, so I think that's good. That's February 16th. Anything else from Mr. Sandvik? Okay.
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Appreciate it very much. Besides Mr. Sandvik, we have two other honored guests. Well, many. There goes Ms. Jolly. She's an honored guest. Ms. Jan Rogers is with us this evening from Motlow State, and Dr. Mary Lou Apple is also with us. And they have a request, and obviously it's an explanation for the request. And I believe we got some email material, I think, and they knew you were coming, and you knew you were coming. So welcome. We're glad to have you at Health and Ed tonight. You have a presentation for us, I believe, and delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
So go right ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I am Mary Lou Apple. I'm serving as president for Motlow, and Jan Rogers is serving as the director for advancement there. We wanted to talk to you about our Smyrna campus that's serving Rutherford County. For most of you, you've probably been involved in it since its beginning, but the Hardin facility that we have now is 17,500 square feet. It's one building, and it's serving about 2,000 students. And if you can see what square footage that is, it comes out to about 4 square feet per person. So we're way over capacity. And that building opened in 2006, and we filled it probably within a year. It was over capacity. So we've rather capped enrollment there. We're running 7 days a week. We do have classes there every day of the week. And we've maxed it out. So we asked the state for additional space. And this has been on the capital projects list. If you know the TBR system, you put your capital project, you wait your turn until it moves up the channels. There was some money that came in when former Governor Bredesen was in office that he moved to a special capital projects for community college high capacity resources for capital projects. It was about $85 million. And some went to technology centers and some to community college, and it was a competitive bid. So we put in one for the Smyrna to move that project off of the capital projects and into the special monies project. And so the project was accepted. And if you'll, across the top of your page, the original cost that was assigned to this project from the state was $9.4 million for it to be a 35,000 square foot building. The building is strictly classes, tutoring, and laboratories. That's all it is, because that's really what we need to be able to serve the students. When it moved out of from the state to an assigned architect, the first call we got is that's not nearly enough to do 35,000 square feet. So we were faced with, we could either fundraise for more money or we could decrease the size of the building. And right now, if we decrease the size of the building, we would not be able to serve the number of students that we need to serve. But more importantly, it would be years. Probably the average right now is 10 to 12 years before a building goes up, if not longer. And some of you know Middle's been waiting now for some time for a building there as well. So I asked for what would be the cost to get the square footage under roof, so that we wouldn't lose the square footage and then we could complete it as we could. It was estimated to be about $1 million. So the revised cost for this expansion was $10.4. The state funding portion was, which was assigned to us from the project I just mentioned from former Governor Bredesen, was $7.6 million. So the amount for us to fund was $2.7. The donations that we received, and this was this is elaborated on below here, was we were required to fundraise 15% of the first amount, and so you can see down through the list there how we earned the $1.787 million. And then following that donation, including the land, Christy Houston, when they found out that we needed the increased cost, decided to match all cash gifts up to that point. The cash gifts were $587. So they matched that, So the total donations in additions to that has come in from individuals was an additional $14,850. So our remaining balance to fund the expansion with shelling in all 35,000 square feet and completion of 81% of that is an additional $397,350. You can see some facts down here. The majority of our students are coming from addresses with Rutherford County, so we feel good that we are serving the county to which we are assigned. Our enrollment here has grown and is almost equal to what was called the original campus in the Moore County campus. That campus has 8 buildings that it's serving students on, so you can see the difference and disparity in what the students have access to. We suspect the enrollment will likely double as soon as we open that building and the individuals are able to come.
I know you gave the number, but I missed it. What is the enrollment now?
About 2,000.
2,000.
And one of our programs that was really desired by Rutherford County was our nursing program, our RN nursing program. That particular program requires some sciences, and one of those science courses is microbiology, and we just do not have the space, the exhaust, et cetera, that's required for that. And those students are driving back down to either Moore County, McMinnville, one of our campuses, to get those classes and able to complete. So they cannot stay on the Smyrna campus and complete that program. We'd really like for that to be able to happen because we need to continue that stream of nurses to supply for the area. So that is one of our pushes, that we need more lab space and more classroom space. And then we're trying to answer some of the needs for the workforce from business and industry. We're currently working with Bridgestone, Nissan, Chromalax, Leggett Platt, some others with our mechatronics program. And that has been a program that they're desired to have in this area. And again, we're limited with where we are. We just can't offer anything more than what we're offering right now. So we're hopeful that this will, again, give us the opportunity to grow and expand to the programs that's needed here. So what we're asking today is, can the Rutherford County Commission help us? We've also asked Murfreesboro City to help at the same time with a one-time gift that we might could get this building under roof. Now, that's a very short summary of from 2006 to now of what's been happening, but I'd be glad to expand on any of that.
Well, the obvious question, I'll ask you to get it out of the way first. How much of a donation? I see it here. I just want you to say it.
Yeah, we took the $397 and split it. So we're asking both groups to see if they could do $200,000. Now, we will probably be in fundraising mode again as soon as we get our bid out there and we really discover what it's going to be to complete the building 100%. But this would secure the 35,000 square feet.
Understood.
I've got 2 questions. First question is, has Murfreesboro replied yet?
Yes.
And did they say yes or no?
They said, we want to respond following your response from Rutherford County.
And the second question I'll aim to the mayor, where will we get the money if we did this? And I don't know, what is the plan of where it comes from? You know?
But first of all, I want to say I'm very much support this project. We've had a couple of meetings with Ms. Apple regarding this, and she's already very well expressed to you what a tremendous service this is providing for all of our 87% of these students are from our county down there. It's just really helping them secure their future and put themselves in a position really to move forward. In answer to your question, I have asked her, and we believe her answer was yes, that we can do this in 2 fiscal years. If we could go ahead and make a contribution of $100,000 now, and then make a commitment to give the other $100,000 in next budget year, that would be acceptable. And we would take the $100,000 at this time out of our development tax fund. I've talked to Lisa. We do have the dollars. We're not heavily flushed with dollars, but we could manage that. And I think it's really a tremendous investment for the long-term future of all of our citizens and young people as they move forward.
Well, I've got 2 teenage sons, and I've learned a lot about college applications now in the last couple of years. And it just amazes me about how much harder it's getting to get into state universities now. They're all full. And from my take, they're just increasing their standards. They're trying to keep the numbers down. And there are a lot of good kids out there that just don't have a place to go to school. I mean, you're full now.
Right.
And there are a lot of, and 25 years ago, you could get a pretty good job without a college degree. Times have changed. And in my opinion, a college degree is what a high school degree was 40 years ago or 30 years ago. A lot of companies won't even look at you without some sort of continuing education. The majority of these kids are Murfreesboro, Rutherford County kids, and we spend, how much is our school system budget this year? $250 million on education.
267 million plus debt service.
And that cuts off at grade 12, so I don't have a problem at all if we can figure out how to pay for this to support this. Because we've got to support our young people, not just 18 years old or through 12th grade, up until they get the better jobs they get, the better off the whole county.
It's a win-win.
What other types of degrees do you offer besides the nursing? Are they associate degrees or are they
They
bachelor
are,
degrees?
we have some certificates that are embedded in a full 2-year degree. And then there's Associate of Applied Science, or most of our 2-work program. They would be computer, nursing, business applications. And then the AA and AS, that is a direct transfer to a 4-year university. And of course, we're the largest producer of transfers to middle, which makes sense, we're the closest.
And then the way you've got the numbers laid out, if you're able to secure all these funds, is the building paid for then, or do you still have to borrow funds, or?
No,
Okay.
we're going for it to be paid for. The building commission for us is bonding, et cetera, is not an option. So we have to get the money up front. And this amount right here would secure us to get the $35,000 under roof with 81% complete.
Okay. And then, but then you still have to equip it.
Yes, and we have been saving ourselves some to try to get ready to equip as well. So we've been on a lean budget ourselves to try to get ready for this. We're really dedicated to it. This is where our growth is occurring.
And then will your student population then help offset the staffing costs that will come with that? And
It will over time. It will not first out of the chute, so I've got to get ready to staff that without any additional funds as well. But once, you get the student tuition come in, it will help, yes.
so build it and then will
Long
come.
term. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Motlow has been a real asset to the community, and it's not just young folks. On my staff out at Heritage Farms, we had a man who ran our safety program as our safety coordinator, and was applying for a staff level position with only a high school degree, and was ineligible for it. During a performance review, we worked out a situation to where we gave him the time and the financing to attend Motlow, and he received a degree in 2 years at Motlow, and put himself in a really strong position, the most qualified person for that promotional opportunity when it existed. So there are success stories. He was convinced that he couldn't do it. He was 40-ish, been out of school for a long time, and convinced that he could not do it. In his own words, I wasn't the best high school student in the world, but made exceptional progress toward that, and enrolled in MTSU after he graduated from Motlow. So they serve more than just young folks, people who are interested in preparing themselves for something additional, and I couldn't give a bigger support, throw my support any more.
We love to hear those stories. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I have a young Laotian man, went to Motlow the first year. He said he loved it. He came back and talked to me a couple months ago about to volunteer in the community when he attending the college.
Good. That's great.
I have one more question, just to try to understand, not really this so much, but just the process. I know that you said that you're the #1 feeder for MTSU, but I don't understand why all state schools wouldn't accept the
They
credits
will.
that are earned. Okay.
It's just that students
Well-
typically,
Logistics,
especially our
so,
students,
yeah.
try to go to somewhere closer to home. A lot of them will.
But sometimes credits don't transfer to other state schools, because I know like my nephew, for example, he's at UT Knoxville, and he was looking into taking, I think, a foreign language course there, and it wouldn't transfer to UT. And I'm just trying to understand the
Right.
process of
Well,
why those
you
things
and
don't.
everyone else in
Okay.
Tennessee would like to. In 2010, in January, Governor Bredesen brought everyone in. And the agenda for 2 weeks was to talk about transfer, articulation, in the future, community college and universities. And one of the things that, a decision was made at that time where we would get 60-hour transfers for once and all cleared, that they're going to transfer to every TBR school and UT. So the TBR schools were not really a problem. We had been working on that anyway. English 10-10, English 10-10, English, okay, and common numbering and all that. It's been a little bit more of a challenge to get UT to come up with exactly the same numbering. We are working with them. We believe that we have that articulation settled. And we're asking our students, so if you have trouble, come back to us. Let us help bridge that. Don't do it alone. Come back to us. So really, we are supposed to have that completed. And any student that has a problem, I hope they will go back to their institution and let them help do that, because by law, that is supposed to be a settled issue.
Nice. Thanks.
I think everybody's spoken, but me, I think this is a partnership that we need to encourage. I certainly support it without question. It's an investment really that the taxpayers are making for the taxpayers. At least that's my feeling. And Commissioner Phillips, that was a terrific example of training, in this case, retraining an individual, which is something that is in the forefront of every political campaign that's going on now. They're talking about jobs, training, et cetera, et cetera. And I think this is an opportunity for us to help.
Have you spoken with the folks at Laverne at all?
Yes, and Laverne over time has contributed even occasionally when we haven't been on their door asking for it. And I have been to Ms. Mosley, and we've talked, and we'll be on her agenda as well to ask. Funding-wise, she doesn't think that they can come anywhere close to this, but they are very dedicated to trying to help. And we've also, again, gone and talked to the town of Smyrna again as well.
Okay. Well, I saw the contribution from the town of Smyrna for the land. So.
Yes, and that was the second piece of land that they've given us, yes.
If there are no other questions, Commissioner Stevens is here this evening, also from the Smyrna area, and I'd like to give him an opportunity as well. Commissioner?
There, thank you. I apologize for being late. I had state work for a few extra minutes, but no, Motlow is a big part of Smyrna. It's a big part of our county. It's clear from the donation that the town has made for the land that the town council in Smyrna is very supportive of this project. And it's very clear that it's at capacity now, and the opportunities that we have to increase our skills for the job force, this is something that we really need to seriously consider. And whatever the county can do to help them, I think that we should certainly do. I know my mom's in the nursing field. She teaches nursing at another college, and she's always talking about the nursing shortage and how many jobs there are out there in that area. Well, this is a place where somebody can get a nursing degree, but it's at capacity. So if we had that extra building and all the extra space and the classrooms, we could be feeding more people into that industry with good paying jobs too at that. So this is an investment in our future, and I hope that the committee and the full commission will be supportive of the project.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there other questions for Dr. Apple or Ms. Rogers? Ms. Rogers has been very quiet, hasn't she? She wasn't quiet in our early meeting, wasn't she? Or on the phone.
I'd like to thank you guys for coming and making your presentation, and I'd like to move that we support the request with the split funding of $100,000 this year and $100,000 next year.
I'll second it, and I would like to, just thinking outside the box a little bit, should we consider making that contingent upon Murfreesboro's matching to put a little pressure back their direction?
No. Not part of my motion. Murfreesboro gonna have to make up their own mind. I'm just thinking that they'll follow our lead, but I'm not sure that they will. That's their decision to make.
Your second is still okay, Commissioner Jordan? or-
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and been properly seconded. Do you have any further discussion from anyone? Okay, I assume we have to have a roll call vote on this to send it to budget with the money attached, so yes, let's do that.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, thank you
so
both.
much. And I would say this is your community college, and we don't always see you or in your offices, et cetera, but if we can ever help you, I hope that you would feel like you could pick up a phone and call us, because we really do care about serving the students in the counties that we represent, just like you are doing, and I thank you for doing that job. So thank you for this opportunity.
You're
In
most
my-
welcome.
In my
Thank you
community,
both.
always when the young folk come to me, I always ask them about having submit to Marlowe College would be best.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Allen, I believe you have something, am I right on that?
Yes, you are.
Okay, do you mind if I want to say one more thing under new business here. On February 21st, you all are going to be receiving a mailing from me, a brief summary of some ideas that I feel should be explored concerning schools and education in general. And the mayor and the finance director and the director of schools will get a copy on or about the same day, which is February 21st, as I said. Maybe the most important part of this is the last line, and that is that my only motive in sending that, I want to start with this committee, of course, is to spark a discussion on the things that are addressed in what I am mailing you. So I just didn't want you to think that this came from the blue with no planning or so forth. If I hadn't been sick, you'd already had it. But at any rate, February 21st, right around that date, will be the date of that mailing, okay? Commissioner Allen and I have briefly discussed, and she has some new business to bring before the committee. And Commissioner Allen, please.
Well, I wish it was entirely new, but it's not new.
Well, no, it's not, is it?
This is a familiar conversation. Commissioner Jordan and I had the opportunity to serve on the redistricting committee. When that group met, there was a certain set of districting guidelines that we agreed that we wanted to follow, and unfortunately, one of them was the respect of incumbency. Once we blessed the commission map and sent it forward, the way the private acts are written, the road board and the school board zones are tied to certain commission districts. So those were set by virtue of us having set the commission districts. Among the principles that we were supposed to follow were compactness, meaning the district being compact, contiguous, meaning that they all touch, respecting political boundaries, meaning the city limits of a certain area should be respected as much as possible, and a variety of other things. And shared interest, shared community interest was one of them. So those, and incumbency was one of the things that we decided to respect. We created inadvertently an island with the school board districts. Now, this is not illegal. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily, except for the fact that had we sat down and only tried to create a road board and school board map, I don't believe we would have intentionally ever created an island. The reason that I think this is important for us to continue to discuss and move forward is the fact that when you look at the city of Laverne and you look at Eagleville, of course, Eagleville, their political boundary is respected because the whole zone, they're just so small. Laverne, being the second smallest city in the county, still got split up into 3 districts. So there are 3 different school board members that represent the city of Laverne, and they have a problem with that. When we came back as a group and we decided to discuss it and revisit it to see if there was any way we could fix the problem, fix the map, we decided that we couldn't without throwing road board and school board members under the bus, because we wouldn't be respecting their incumbency. So there we sat, having to decide, do we respect the opinions of the people that those road and school board people represent, or do we respect the representatives themselves? And so because we had agreed to respect our own incumbency from the county commission standpoint, it would have looked bad. It would have been a bad move and would have looked bad on all of us had we said, we're going to respect our incumbency but not respect yours. What I think needs to happen, because this is an involved conversation. I mean, I'm just giving you the highlights, because once you dig into this and you figure out, the only way that this is really going to change is if we can move it at some point in the future. If we phase it in over time at some point in the future, which means you're going to have to run out everybody's incumbency cycle and then look at how could these, what's a better way for this map to be laid out so that anybody running in the future would know exactly when their district is going to change, so that those can be aligned properly. And if you remember, also with steering committee, we voted to change the private acts, and so some of these are even being renumbered, and so we were having to do, one of the road board members was going to have a 6-year term. So that just further complicates this conversation. So now if you're talking about phasing it in, you could potentially be looking at 2018 before any changes are made. But I just still feel like it's an important enough a conversation that there needs to be a committee formed that can look at this, that can analyze the details, and can figure out, is there some way to represent Laverne in the way that they want to be represented? The point that I kept making every time is that when you look at the communities of interest, Laverne and Eagleville are not at all similar. I don't think we could have picked two more dissimilar communities, and they have the exact same representative, who you can see is broken up by this island. The green spaces there are Wayne Blair's territory, and so he's got District 8 and 10, and then he's down here with 8, 9, and 10 is what he has. I just ran some demographic numbers quickly from the National Center for Education Statistics. In Laverne, and I just did Laverne High School because I didn't have time to do all 16 schools in Laverne to do a true K-12 comparison like Eagleville is a K-12 comparison. But at Laverne High School alone, 52% of the school is minorities, all combined. In Eagleville, it's 5. Free and reduced lunch, it's 42% at Laverne. It's 31% at Eagleville. Those are a little bit closer, but still, there's just such a disparity in these two communities that I just don't feel like if I were to run for that position and I were trying to represent Eagleville and Laverne, I've got 16 schools in one area that's very diverse, has very different needs than a rural community. I don't care how good you are, I don't care how well intended you are, I just don't feel like those two communities are going to be equally served. And so it's just a conversation that I don't want to die, and I promised the folks of Laverne I wouldn't let it die. And so I figured if anybody is going to understand this, it's going to be the people in this room. So I brought it to you to say I think we need to make a recommendation that a committee be formed who can take some time and study this. It needs to include next time a road and a school board member, which we didn't have on the other one. I think it should probably even include some representatives from the local municipalities. It doesn't need to be an overly large group, which now means you don't need to have 8 commissioners on it. And I'm not married to what that committee looks like, but it needs to be far more diverse than what we had before, and it needs to be as apolitical as possible. So, those are my thoughts. Any feedback?
Committee?
The incumbency deal seemed to be a big deal. You mentioned it several times. And I'm just wondering if the original intent was not honored, but since we've been asked to re-look at that and re-change that, wouldn't that change the reason to that whole commitment to incumbency and that type of thing? Wouldn't that change that up some?
Well, that's one of the things that in the redistricting that we talked about, and there wasn't a vote taken on it, but there were lots of heads nodding yes. I can tell you that. When we talked about, would it make sense for us to put a committee together to study this, to say, okay, at some point in the future, this is going to be a phase in at a future date, so that people running at a future time know that this is how the districts are going to be lined up. The heads were nodding. I wouldn't say every head, but more heads were nodding at that than there were trying to change it right now today and potentially tossing somebody, forcing two incumbents to now be zoned for the same district in a near election cycle. And that's what I'm saying, Jeff. This is a complicated conversation. You think it would just be easy to just move some pieces on a map, but when it starts applying to people's lives, it gets hard. And
Well,
so,
this map's looked like this since at
That's
least
right.
1972,
that's right.
because it's not an easy
It's
fix.
not easy. It's not easy.
Because I know my district has got a big jag in it to take in a school board member,
Yeah.
Mr. Kelly.
Yeah.
And I remember watching in this room while the committee was in, they said, we have to keep Mr. Kelly, who's the school board member for that district, in that district. And so it made it leaped over here
Yeah.
to take it in. And if it hadn't been for incumbency on the school board member, the district would look totally different.
Right.
At least on one section right there. And so, I don't know. I mean,
And, well,
is this the body? I mean, I'm not trying to push anything off, but
Right.
I kind of see somebody's going to starting at steering or something. But
Yeah, we talked about that.
We did.
Because
Um,
the main reason I wanted to start here was only because of it being such a heavy education issue, and because we're talking about school board members, and that was the reason that I wanted to begin that conversation here. And also, there's I'll be straight. I'm just a straight shooter. I don't know how to talk any other way. There's ruffled feathers on steering. This got hot, and I just don't want the conversation to die because there are conflicting political views when this is not at all about politics for the city of Laverne and those citizens and how they want to be represented. So I want them to have their day. I want them to have their conversation, and I don't want it to get killed in committee.
I hate for it to look like it didn't happen in steering, so let's try and backdoor it through
No,
Health
and that's
Ed.
fine. And if we
And
need-
that
if-
is what some people
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
Well, I think Commissioner Allen would present this idea to steering. I don't
happy
think
to.
that's a problem. And I'm speaking now not as chairman of this committee, but as just a member of the redistricting committee. And there was no, I think I can say this very honestly, as honest as I can be, there was no intent here to do anything that we shouldn't have done. I think I can speak for that committee.
That's right.
Okay, and we did. It was not a difficult job to strictly do the commissioners. It was time consuming, but it wasn't difficult. And I think we did a great job. I really do. I was very proud to be a part of that process. Small part, but a part. But when Commissioner Allen made this point, 3 or 4 times she's made it, and she made it that night, and we didn't listen to her. Okay, and the point was, we had better put up and look and see what results this has had on school board and road board. And we knew we were legal. We knew that, and we are legal. We're legal right now. As he said, Commissioner Jordan said, this map's been in operation now for nearly 40 years, so we know it's legal. But we could have done better, and we did not. And I don't know really why, if Commissioner Allen had been. But we knew we were legal, so we went ahead. And also, I'm trying to be very fair here now, we begged for input from other people, and we didn't get it until, talking about road board and school board members, until we got through with the process. But I think to cement my comment on the fact that we were not trying to do anything under the table or any other way, we could have gone ahead and she could have forgotten all about this, never brought this back up again. It all would have been done and we had been through. But that was not our intent. We wanted to be fair to everyone, and we were not fair to the road board and school board members, not every one of them, but to some of them. So that's kind of where we are now. That's a Jordan very poorly worded summary, but that's kind of where we are, in this process. And I think she should make this to steering, and if they want to, whatever they want to recommend, I'm on steering. We can go to the commission and ask them to set up a committee, and another committee or reconvene the old committee. But I can tell you now
No,
that
we'll offer
everybody,
that up as an option.
everybody on the old committee is not
No.
gonna serve, I can assure you
Yeah.
of that.
And I think it needs to be a diverse committee.
I agree with that. And
And-
so
and-
you can
and we
make
can-
that, you can make
yeah.
that, and we can put it as part of the request if a request is made.
Right, and I just don't feel like we can continue to add to the bodies in that room.
I wouldn't argue with
Yeah.
any of that.
Yeah.
Um,
And because the other thing is too, you know, if I am right, and I hope I'm not, I mean, I hope a phase-in can happen before 2018. But if I am right and a phase-in can't happen until then you're right on the cusp of the next redistricting. But the problem is, if we don't look at it now and we don't begin to put something in place, a plan to begin to change or migrate to a better system, it's not gonna happen in 10 years from now either, because it'll be the same situation where they won't pick up the map, we won't look at it until we've got the census data, because that's one of the things that I asked the folks at GIS, you know, and OIT. I said, you know, I felt like we were so rushed. Why were we so rushed? Why were we so under the gun? You know, why? And the reality is, they got us ready as quickly as they could get us ready. They only had the software at a certain point in time. They only had their training at a certain point in time. We came out of the gate as fast as we could have with everything that had to happen before the process started. So it wasn't like anybody was sitting back stalling us so that we'd be forced and under the gun to do it. So I'm just saying, you know, when it's time to pick it up again, there will be a condensed time frame once again where it's got to be done and got to be completed. And so, you know, if there's legwork that needs to be done ahead of time to keep the conversation alive, if there's a plan that needs to be, you know, put together, I just think it's smart for us to take our time. And that was the thing, you know, folks in the committee kept saying, well, you know, we can do road board and school board anytime. We've got all the time in the world. That's not tied to this. Well, guess what? Let's do it then. If we've got all the time in the world and we can do it anytime we want to, well, let's start working on it.
Well, I guess the question remains then, where do we need to go from here? Do we need a motion on this at all, or
Well,
should
and-
we just
And
send her
really,
to?
I'm really eager for feedback from this group. You know, do you see the concern? Like, one of the things that's added to this map that hadn't been on previous maps we've looked at is I asked the folks in the OIT department to add the dotted lines that show you how the municipalities are broken out. So you can see in the very top end in the blue, dotted lines, that Laverne is almost equally divided into 3 parts. You've got Smyrna, which is primarily into 2 and a little bit of a third. So they have 3 representatives as well, but really almost the majority of 2. And then Murfreesboro, the way they're just kind of all over the place. They pick up a little bit of everybody.
Well, they've got several different representatives.
Yeah.
I've talked to people from Laverne, I mean, I'm not trying to be argumentative at all, that said,
I want your
hey, we've
feedback.
got 3 voices,
Right.
you know, and so that's a whole nother side.
And I
I
said
mean,
that to them.
and then you say,
Yeah.
do you want 1 out of 7 who's gonna focus on Laverne?
Yeah.
Or you could have 3 people who have a vested interest in Laverne, so.
That's right.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just playing
No.
devil's advocate here, but I mean, there's arguments on both sides.
I had the
you
exact
know.
same conversation with them, and I said, "You've got 3 out of 4 votes you need. Are you sure you want to go this route?"
Mhm.
And they were adamant that they want their
Who is they? I mean,
yeah, the-
whatever group of people
Yeah,
you're with at
yeah,
the time, you
yeah.
know, that could be this group who
Right.
has gotten
Yeah.
involved and they think, but there may be another group that's,
Right.
because there's
But
not just,
but the other group hasn't voiced their
you know, besides maybe
opinion. Yeah.
the alderman or then the mayor, they can voice,
Yeah.
I guess, the best voice for the people, but
Yeah.
there's still people who think both ways, you know.
What did we commit to do as a commission when we approved the whole redistricting? We committed to do something, if I remember right. We didn't commit to do anything, but we didn't even commit to take a look at it.
I thought we at least
No,
I thought
I
we
don't.
did.
gestured that we would take a look at it.
We have gestured, there's no official action been taken for
Yeah.
any future study or
Discussion.
review or
Mhm.
plan development.
I thought when all the people of Laverne showed up at the courtroom, there was something that we committed to do for those guys.
That's what we did is we sent the maps back to the redistricting committee and asked them to make a recommendation on looking at the map, and if they wanted to make a change, making a recommendation. And at that point, that's when we recommended no change, because we saw there was no way to do it without sacrificing incumbents.
That's correct.
I thought they made a bridge across the green. Did they not do that?
We had that conversation as well, and there were issues with splitting the Amable community in half, and then
And so
Yeah.
that didn't happen either.
that
Yeah.
didn't happen either.
But
So
that's kind of a light gesture to do that to start with. you know.
Right. Well, and that's when it looks like you said, where you're trying to force a fit.
Mhm.
Where the original map that we had, at least this way, we know based off the commission districts, the number one goal in all of this is one man, one vote. That you've got equal proportions of the commission districts so that there's no one body that's greater than another within 5% margin of error. So we knew we had that with this map, so we left it that way. Because if we did make that bridge, if we made that change, then we were really pushing those numbers of the plus or minus 5% a lot more than we were by leaving it this way. The numbers were really tight with this existing map. So that's what I'm saying. I really wanted everybody's feedback because, you know, I'm going to need your support going forward. If we can get it, you know, through steering, and if that's where you think it needs to go, then I'm happy to have that conversation with them. You know, and then when it goes if it has to go for a vote on the commission floor, you know, I want your feedback and I want your support, and that's what I'm asking for. And your support is purely for there to be a committee to discuss it, for a committee to study it. I don't know what recommendation they're going to come out because I don't plan on being on that committee, but I want there to at least be a committee, and I want there to at least be a conversation.
Well, if the commission will have to, steering, I would think, would have to recommend a committee be set up and what would make up that committee. I think that's correct. And then the commission could change it, which they did the last time.
Right.
Added a person or two, I guess. And subtracted maybe some, I don't really remember now, it's been so long. But anyway, made some minor change on that committee. And I think that's probably the route we need to take. But, you know, I don't know if we need a motion here to do that or just, I can just request from Commissioner Coggin that he puts you on the agenda the next time. And
Becky, do you know when steering's next meeting is?
February 6th, isn't it?
What you'd be studying would be school and road, not commission districts.
Right.
Right, they're not changing the commission districts.
February 6th is the.
What time do they meet?
Commission districts are set in place for 10
That's right.
years.
Correct. I guess what I'm saying is that to have, how difficult would it be if you didn't deal with incumbency? How difficult would it be at that point in time?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, the only one difficulty.
What we're saying is what the problem appears to be is incumbency. We've committed to do that.
To protect incumbency. Right.
Kind of, sort of. But how difficult would it be if you just realigned the numbers and just didn't place any?
Pretty easy. We already have that map, but nobody wanted to go that route.
That looks pretty self-serving at this point in time, when we just approved a map that takes care of all of us. And then as soon as we get that approved, we're gonna back up and say we're not looking at incumbency.
Well, that's what we essentially did, and that didn't work.
You know, but we drew the map, but
Right.
not just our own incumbency, but the others.
Right.
You know, but I would have rather drawn a commission map and not deal with anybody's incumbency.
Right.
And let us run against one another if it failed or whatever. And that would be the fair thing, then we missed that boat, because I'm thinking that hindsight's 20/20. But I've got a bit of a problem at this point in time to say, we're good for 9 years and 11 more months, but we're gonna throw them under the bus, you know,
Right.
to some extent. You know, our districts could look a whole lot squarer and neater and all if we hadn't dealt with incumbency and stuff, and I just.
And they pointed that out to
just
us
me
in no
looked-
uncertain terms.
And the first thing on the redistricting committee was the rules, was incumbency for everybody. I've talked to some road board members and some school board members, said, I saw what your ideas were, you know, you're gonna protect incumbency. They could deal with a little bit of flexibility in the district, and they didn't come to meetings because they said, we're
Right.
good. You know, it would've been a whole different crowd
Right.
if we had done that, but I've got a bit of a problem at this point in time, and I'm repeating myself now.
And I
Go
think,
back and do
well,
it.
I think too, we could have easily solved that problem if everybody ran in the same year, which commissioners do, but school board and road board members don't.
Right.
And so that's where we ended up with putting somebody in a district that was gonna have to run again, but they were gonna have to wait 2 years because they were in a new district that was already being represented by somebody else.
Right.
That's totally unfair. We've actually in
agree.
the past had a commissioner was on the road board, and you could only do that in certain districts because you couldn't be on the agenda on the ballot twice at one time. My road board member in my district runs the same time I do, but an adjoining commission district, the commissioner could be the road board member. That's not right.
No, it's not.
You know, hopefully we're fixing that. You know, but
Jeff, to go back to your question, if we let everybody's incumbency cycle run out and we say this new map, whatever it looks like, is effective 2018, then that would respect everybody's incumbency and allow them to finish out whatever term they're elected in, and then knowing with that next election cycle, they were going to have to. Their district was going to change, or what it was going to look like would change. So you're respecting incumbency at least for the duration of their term. You're not changing during a term. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, Commissioner, but you're passionate, you want to see something done, but do 20 other commissioners want to see something done? And are you wasting your time?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking for feedback. I need you to be honest with me because, you know, I told the folks in Laverne that I would fight for whatever they wanted me to fight for, and that's why I'm here.
Okay.
In their defense, and I'm not, I didn't like the idea the first few times I heard it. Then I ended up kind of
Warm it up.
changed. Yeah, I warmed to it a bit, and then now I'm back where I was before. But I tell you what, and I'm on. Commissioner Cook is not here, but she made a very passionate, to use Commissioner Phillips' word there, to me, and I see what she's talking about, and she made a point, and I'm going to use Laverne Primary School as an example. That school was horribly overcrowded, and it was because I was at Laverne High School at that time, and we knew all about Laverne Primary, and that those needs and at Laverne Primary were unaddressed for nearly a decade, and because they didn't feel like that they had a voice. Now I have no idea. That was just what she was telling me, and that they were afraid that could happen again, even though they seem to be. I don't know. They haven't called me otherwise. They seem to be very happy with their representation now. I haven't heard any complaints.
No, I think they're
now.
very happy with it now.
But they are looking maybe ahead. Now, whether they're right or not, I don't know. I have my doubts. But at any rate, all you're asking is that we look at it,
Right.
or that somebody look at it. Mayor?
I've tried my best to not even say anything about any of this, and I haven't. Even before we talk about how we want to restructure the numbers of the district, somebody has really got to get their arms around what is the real purpose for this discussion. Is it because we've got disparity in, the free and reduced lunch or minority representation? Is that the underlying discussion point, or is it because Laverne feels a strong sense for a different guaranteed type of representation? What are we really fundamentally trying to focus on and solve? And we can't all come together on that yet, it doesn't appear. So, I think we got to start there before we can build the structure on how we want to make the changes, and we can handle the mechanics of the terms and all of that, but we've got to have some basic fundamental understanding of what are we really trying to accomplish, and can we all agree with that?
Well, I can answer. I feel like I can answer that for you. The point that they've made to me strongly is the second one that you said, which is they want guaranteed representation. Not that somebody's going to be guaranteed from Laverne that's going to run, but they'd rather have for one person to have a larger district, or in this case, you'd probably have to have at least two to have a larger portion of their town. They feel like their representation is watered down with the three voices. And I had a very candid conversation to say, you've got 3 out of 4 votes that you need to get something done on the school board. Are you sure you want to go that direction? And they were adamant that they would rather have a louder, stronger voice that is passionate and going to represent their community, and not have their interest torn or their voice diluted. The point in the disparity between the types of schools, that's always been my point. That's always been my conversation, to say, these are very different communities. These are very different schools, and I don't feel like they can be served equally. That is my personal view. That is not what Laverne has said to me. Laverne has said, we want committed representation for our area, and we don't want our voices watered down.
But, and then we go the next step, do we ask Smyrna if that's what they want? And do we ask Murfreesboro if that's what they want? I mean, how do we maintain some sort of equality and opportunity for all of the municipalities?
Would that be discrimination to
I
some
don't know.
extent if we were to say, we're gonna do it so Laverne for sure gets this, and like you said, some other community would say, well, hey, what are we getting, you know? And back to Commissioner Jordan's point, I know in years past, because I know a fellow was on the school board back in years past.
Yes, you probably do.
And there are times when the school board was wanting something for certain areas of the school, and they couldn't get the funding through the commission. So there's been times
point.
when Laverne didn't have the strength on the commission.
Good point.
And the school board say, we need a school on the north end of the county, and they couldn't get the funding from this body. And so it's not necessarily just the school board, you know, that didn't get help for Laverne Primary. Because I remember some battles back in the 80s and all, when the commission just wasn't the political pull for the north end of the county at that point in time, maybe, to get enough votes for funding, you know.
There probably is no answer for what I'm about to say, but it does bring upon a problem that I struggle with. I assume other commissioners do as well. But it doesn't make any difference. We all represent everybody. I mean, you know, I know I'm in District 13, has nothing to do with Laverne whatsoever, but my vote does, you know. So, okay, so they asked me to do something that they want badly, and I feel that they're wrong. Now, do I do what they want and try to satisfy them, or do I follow my conscience and my knowledge on as limited as it may be, and vote the other way? It's very difficult. I guess we all face that on various issues at some time or another. But I'm not sure that they're right about this. And you and I have had some conversations about this. I'm not sure they're right at all. But that's what they want. And Mayor Mosley made it very clear what she wanted, and very, very passionately. So somebody's going to have to deal with it, I guess. Well, where do we go from here? I don't know that we need anything as far as the vote is concerned. I can just call, or you can call Commissioner Coggin and ask to be on the agenda on the 6th. I don't know that she needs she wanted input from us. Is that, are you okay?
And your blessing going forward, even if you don't agree with me, and, you know, even if you don't support it when we come to a vote, but I just needed everybody's blessing to say this is, you know, it's a conversation worth having.
I don't know that we're in the blessings business,
well,
but
I think you are,
Yeah.
from the standpoint of if you're the person who calls Chairman Coggin on my behalf, then
Yes.
I feel like I have your blessing.
Well, I'll call him
I
then.
appreciate it.
Does any other committee member wish to address this any further? Okay, is
Done.
are you okay?
Yes.
Any other new business from anyone? I thank the committee very much. We are adjourned.